He said the case was closed. They said the story was over. They said Yu Menglong's tragic departure was a heartbreaking accident, a story for the tabloids, a cautionary tale of fleeting fame. But now, the world is beginning to realize how wrong they were. Because a leak has emerged, a confidential report from the secret investigation into Yu Menglong's final days, and it's far worse than anyone could have imagined. For years, fans, journalists and investigators tried to piece together the fragmented story of Yu Menglong. Every interview, every behind-the-scenes clip, every whispered rumor in fan forums was combed over with obsessive care. Nothing made sense. Why had he become so withdrawn? Why had he stopped attending press events? And why, above all, had he been found alone, in circumstances no one could fully explain? The official report offered vague statements, personal issues, and sudden health complications. But insiders knew better. And now the leaked document confirms what fans had always suspected. There was more to Yu Menglong's story than the world was allowed to see. According to the leak, investigators found multiple layers of concealment, manipulation, and misdirection surrounding his final months. The files describe how Yu's personal communications had been monitored extensively, how certain associates were directed to limit contact, and how the company he had worked with was allegedly engaged in practices that would shock even the most jaded observers. The report mentions a recurring pattern: young artists being isolated, overworked, and pressured to sign contracts that left them financially and creatively powerless. Yu Menglong, however, had begun questioning the system. He had started documenting discrepancies, noting irregular transactions and unusual orders within the company. One excerpt from the report reads, "Subject demonstrated increasing concern regarding financial mismanagement and possible exploitation practices. Subject attempted to secure evidence through private communications and encrypted channels." Encrypted channels. Private communications. A man who had been the picture of charm and poise in public was quietly gathering proof. Proof that someone powerful didn't want anyone to see. The most shocking part of the leak, however, is the reference to the so-called critical night. Investigators noted that on this night, Yu Menglong had allegedly attempted to confront company officials directly. Multiple sources in the report describe a tense altercation. Subject confronted multiple senior executives regarding unaccounted funds, unauthorized use of personal information, and alleged coercion of junior artists. Verbal threats were reportedly made against Subject, who expressed fear for personal safety shortly thereafter. Fear. Not just caution or concern. Fear. And then the report states something even more alarming. Subject was last seen entering a restricted area. CCTV footage shows unusual activity. However, surveillance logs are incomplete, suggesting deliberate tampering. Tampering. Someone had purposefully erased the trail. For months, the public was fed a narrative of inevitability. That Yu Menglong's disappearance and subsequent death were tragic but natural. Now, with the leaked investigation, it's clear that this story was carefully constructed to obscure the truth. The report even identifies what it calls high-risk entities. Unnamed executives and outside partners with connections to financial operations, legal loopholes, and potentially dangerous enforcement measures. The language is chilling. It doesn't outright accuse anyone, but it leaves no doubt. Someone didn't want Yu Menglong talking. Fans of Yu Menglong have started combing the report for hints, correlating the information with known events. One of the most discussed passages mentions a mysterious envelope, believed to have contained critical evidence, which Yu allegedly attempted to remove from the facility before the critical night. Investigators note, envelope was never recovered. Attempts to track its contents or location were obstructed by company personnel. Subject had communicated intent to disclose findings to external parties. The implication is clear. Yu Menglong had evidence. Evidence that could have exposed the inner workings of a system built on control, secrecy, and exploitation. And someone wanted it destroyed. The report also details anomalies in medical records, security logs, and employee schedules. According to internal witnesses, there were unexplained hospitalizations, sudden resignations, and shifts in responsibilities that conveniently covered gaps in oversight. All of these were cataloged meticulously in the secret investigation, but only now have they surfaced in the leak. The report suggests a deliberate effort to create the illusion of normalcy while systematically erasing or hiding any trace of wrongdoing. And Yu Menglong, unfortunately, was caught in the middle. Perhaps the most terrifying section of the leak is the analysis of surveillance footage. While the report cannot confirm the full contents of missing tapes, it notes that one camera, labeled CAM_07, recorded an interaction in a restricted hallway hours before Yu's disappearance. In this interaction, a figure, tall, masked, and deliberately blocking the view, is seen confronting Yu. The confrontation lasts mere seconds, but the report stresses the following. Subject's body language suggests fear and urgency. The unidentified figure's posture and movements indicate potential premeditation and threat. Subsequent footage from CAM_07 and other sources is missing or corrupted. Essentially, someone had planned the encounter, and someone had ensured there would be no evidence remaining. The report also uncovers a web of communications between Yu and a confidential whistleblower, identified only as Agent X. These messages, encrypted and partially recovered, describe shocking allegations. Hidden funds, forced silencing of junior artists, and the intentional misdirection of public perception. Agent X indicates that subject was close to revealing the extent of the exploitation network. Subject expressed fear that his attempts to expose misconduct would provoke retaliation. Threat assessment. High. The leak implies that Yu Menglong was aware of the risks, yet continued to pursue the truth. A man with courage few could imagine. As if to heighten the drama, the investigation also reveals that evidence may have been deliberately obscured through multiple layers of obfuscation. Emails were deleted, CCTV footage erased, and internal memos falsified. Even digital metadata was altered to mislead investigators. The report reads like a thriller. Every clue leads to another mystery. Every piece of evidence uncovers a larger conspiracy. Every witness, when cross-checked, paints a slightly different picture, all pointing to the same terrifying conclusion. Yu Menglong had stumbled into a web far bigger than himself. Perhaps the most haunting detail is a timeline included in the report. It charts Yu's movements for the critical 48 hours leading up to his disappearance. He was seen visiting his agency office late at night, carrying a secured envelope, meeting with a mysterious man in a gray suit, whose identity remains unknown, walking through side corridors captured only briefly on camera, finally entering a